I just want to have some kind of preamble before dealing with the second part. I have received some feedback for which I thank very much. For people, friends who have watched over the internet and who gave some remark. And the remark was, how is it that I have not talked about the Egyptian civilization? My answer to friends over there watching me, and also for friends here who dare not ask the question, you are right. You are right, and I'm also right, because I have warned you right from the beginning that it is not exhaustive and all is false, because truth is always a challenge for historians. I put on the chronology, simplified, if you remember well, starting with minus 2,900. But it is fake, because for some historians, the I Ching or Yi King started to be known at minus 8,000. So I don't want to burden you on this. This is why in one sentence I have warned you saying, don't pay attention to that. Because the main concern of us here, of ours, is how this proceed and evolve in the course of time, and not year by year, century by century. The same, the Vedas, you can find minus 8,000 or something, and which is all right. And if we take the Egyptian civilization, you have to go also the same time to Sumer, to Babylonia, to have all this all together. How can we present text from Egypt, from Sumer? Because the first text of law in Sumer was from the king Sargon. And it is absolutely incomprehensible for people like us, because in one sentence we can now shorten, it would be one page or something to explain in details. So please, I warn you again, what I'm going to tell you, all is untrue. All is untrue, and it is good because there is no pretension that I am professing truth. My intention and perhaps ambition is to give you some pinches of flour, some sugar, if you are not diabetic, some ingredients so that you could bake your own cake, okay? And the cake will be yours, because you will not eat another cake baked by someone else in that field, okay? So all is untrue. And to take out of my responsibility for this, I would say, as Ed Abdil said, and many before him and before me had already said, thus I have heard. And I will add, thus I have heard and thus I have understood. Because it is easy to say, thus I have heard, but my responsibility is what I have understood. Okay? So then, all is untrue. At the end of this session, I would not have pronounced a word. Why? Because all will, if it works well, no words will remain in your mind, but something will remain, which is, I think, Stefan Holler called it, with absolute appropriate term, the quintessence of something will remain. It is, the quintessence is us. Not our physical body, not our sentiments, of all this. And I have the ambition to touch this so that something should remain after that. Okay? So let us go on and ask the question again, what is a human being? Because we are in this position. What is a human being? And we have said that a human being is part of this 7 billion of individuals on Earth. And then we are part of the species Homo sapiens sapiens. It takes a long time to go out of it, but still we are in. And then we are in a very special moment It is the moment where in us there is a kind of equilibrium between spirit and matter, with a slightest unbalance, so that things could move, because perfect balance means immobile. Okay, so there's something there, and then this moment is the turning point. The turning point we have gone through a little bit in the last session, and this turning point, it is kind of U-turn. It is like a U-turn, and before going to explore what is it, this U-turn, we said that it is not the U-turn of Mrs. Thatcher. In the year 80s, she talked a lot about this and struggling with the miners in England. So this, before going, I would like to give some words to this part, which is important. This is the difference of pedagogy between East and West. It is not we are living in the divided world, no, because things are going such a way that the mind should be educated in one way or another, and it is up to it to discover the unifying process. Now, there is two ways of looking at the thing. The Vitarka way and the Vichara way. The Vitarka way is analytical, and the Vichara is a way of synthesizing, to make it short. Now I will make an example for you to make it easier. You look at the tree. This tree, for example. No, it is not a good tree. I want a real tree, living being. So let us take a tree, a real tree, and the Vitarka way of seeing is that I come and to touch it. And see, there's the leaves, there's the trunk, and there are the roots. And further, I will analyze what are the chemicals inside. Well, it was my profession to extract things to make a medicine so that it should be sold in the market instead of chewing the thing. So anyhow, so this way of Vitarka is going from the general to the particular in such a way that you can find out the working principle in the plant, in the tree, in whatever. Now the Vichara way is the reverse. You depart from a tree, and you see, oh, all trees are like that. And you don't look with analysis. You look at the shape, and then you go to where to find the tree? Forest. You look at the forest. You said, what is the main characteristic of trees? Verticality. You come to this characteristic, which is the main quality of a tree, meaning growing vertically. It is not like animals in this horizontal field. Okay? So this is the two ways of Vitarka and Vichara. Now applying to understanding. Vitarka, when you study the secret doctrine, you look at it, oh, there are many terms. And of course, you got something, you get drowned in the terms. You will find this in dictionary, and this dictionary will lead you to another dictionary, and another dictionary. At the end, you said, what I'm looking for. The first, you lost trace of your investigation. This is the weakness of Vitarka. Now in the Vichara, I think that somebody has already suggested it. I think our friend Michael Gomes here said, when you study something, don't pay attention too much to the details. Read. You can understand to some extent. Understand. Don't stop your understanding. You can't. So go and then somewhere leave the mind to be free. Don't get the mind stuck in some ideas, in some concept, in some beliefs of your own. Sometimes you are so enthusiastic that out of you have read, you make theories about it. Okay? Play with it and forget about it and go beyond. Always moving onward, not get stuck. Okay? So then, when we read something, the vichara method is that you go further, and certainly without finding immediately what you have not understood at a certain moment, you will find it later on, because something has been working in the mind without you knowing it knowingly, not consciously, but something is working. Something is working so that perhaps 10 years later, after having studied the secret doctrine, 10 years? No, not too much. Not too much. But time does not count. We will come to this point later on. Let us say 10 years I studied the secret doctrine. After that, you ask your question. If you meet somebody in the metro, in the tube, and this person asks, what is karma? Don't get stunned. Because you get stunned, you have not understood what you have studied. Studying understanding means necessarily the capacity of rendering your understanding in your own words. And not, let me look, what page, what paragraph, what line. Finish. Study, reflect, reason, assimilate, and then say it with your own words. Okay? When you can do that, then you have done half of the job. Because not half, not the whole, but just half. Half, why? Because the other half should be done over the ego. When you understood well, you say, oh, wow, how great I am. No? I am saying something, is it very common? This is, wow, I have discovered something immense. I have never reached to that. Now I have not only reached it, I have understood that. And now I have to share. And I can share. So the ego is growing. Without measure. No, it is the mind, it is not the ego. So anyhow, this last part is the biggest. How to be aware of this. And this we are going to take into this chapter a little bit later on. So then, you know the two ways, the vitarka and the vichara, okay? We can go. Now the process and the development of thinking. What happens when we think? You see, we are like children playing with the Lego toys pieces. We put that and we construct a thing. I have very much liked a cartoon, the Peanuts, you know, all of you know. And one of the characters, which I really love, is Linus. Linus is a little boy, very innocent, naive, pure in a way. So he put up the Legos. And then finally he is caught in his own toy and his own game. And he cried help because all the Lego pieces surround him. He could not get out of it. Can you imagine that? And we are like that with the secret doctrine in our studies. Don't get stuck like that, like little boy Linus. When we study, there is a consciousness that it is studying. Meaning somewhere there is a watcher somewhere. It's just that you doing the thing that is the first and the last. No, you are in the middle. You are not the last or the first. You are in the middle. And we are always in the middle. This is our blessing because we can move. And we can look back a little bit and say, oh, the way I have done, the distance I have walked to arrive here. So this process and development of thinking, we have to be watchful how it proceeds. Generally speaking, when we think, there is a linear way of thinking. We put things one after another, developing and this and that. It is like arithmetic, you see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now there is a way of thinking which is not linear. It is the non-linear way of thinking. Somewhere, stop thinking in the linear way. Leave it to cook. In inverted commas, it will cook by itself. Don't develop in a linear way. And we are made of intuition. And this capacity of intuition, which I have tackled a little bit the other session and we have developed today, this faculty of intuition will cook it for us so that the next step, our thinking, is not in the linear way. This is the starting of discovering something. And we say, wow. This is the wow, meaning that we are coming out of the circle of linearity. Meaning linearity, like that. Huh? And then something will stop, and then somewhere, and then start again. So then, let me see whether I have not forgotten something. So we said that we have to learn this way of thinking, which is not linear, and apply our intuitive faculty. Now, making use of it, we can ask questions essential about consciousness. The consciousness, we are not the man, should I say always, and the woman? Or when I say man, you would understand generously that I mean also man and woman. Thank you. So I will use only man, okay? So we are not the man of 8,000 years ago, despite all the fact that many moralists, many philosophers would say man has not changed. All egoistic, all self-centered, true. All true. But this is the use of our consciousness. But on the field of consciousness, man is no longer the same. Do you think that you are the same man of the Homo faber? Just making tools? You are more than that, and you're more than the Homo sapiens sapiens. Why? Because in addition to the capacity of thinking, reasoning, now there is this capacity which I call the mirror effect. Mirror effect is that you look at the mirror and you recognize, oh, he's John, he's Michael, you call yourself. You know that it is your image in the mirror. On the level of consciousness, on the atomic level, there's a kind of turning point in such a way that it sounds like particles of matter go further and further at the borders of its objectivity. It cannot go. It has to reflect itself. And this reflection in the human consciousness is self-consciousness. Man is the only species who says, I am, I want, I desire, I hate, but the I is there, followed by an action, but the I is there. Well, for those who want to study very in detail, this I is the element, the principle of ahankara in the Sankhya philosophy. Ahankara is the one who is born after Mahat, after the fusion of spirit and matter into intelligence, universal, and now came the second born, not the second time born, second born, which is ahankara, the sense of I. And this sense of I is a curse and also is a blessing. Why? Because according to Madame Blavatsky, Michael will contradict me if I say some mistakes here. I don't quote. I don't have the memory of a giant as Michael is walking with the dinosaur. So, according to Madame Blavatsky, everyone, every being, small, great, angels, of course, demons, animals, whatever, archangels, all have to come through the earth state to learn and to assimilate the lesson of self-consciousness. This mirror effect, meaning that we look at something, it is like matter reflecting itself. We cannot help it, because it is the evolution on the level of universality. It is like that, the one consciousness evolving. Nobody can say, I will retain it and I don't want to be self-conscious. Somebody tried to do it, but then it turned out to be psychological diseases. Many psychological diseases come to this resistance, to this mirror effect. This is why our psychiatric hospitals are so filled up today, because people reject this effect. It is too great. It is a big lesson. We have to go through it. And you know what is the first sign of rejection of this effect, mirror effect, is boredom. One gets bored at home, not knowing what to do. Have to do something. And not finding something to do, one gets bored. And out of this boredom, next will come depression. Depression is a disease now recognized, but it is the second step of the action or rejection of the mirror effect in oneself. One does not want, refuses to look into oneself to see what is happening, what is going on, by fear, by whatever. The motivation is not in the agenda of today, but let us know that boredom is not something to be blamed. It is a symptom of this action of rejection, of this effect, seeing oneself in one's own mirror, meaning throwing away this returning process of matter coming back. Because you know, we are always traveling. We think that we are staying in one place, or we are believing in one certainty. No, by the way, I promote uncertainty, but not certainty. And we are moving all the time without us knowing. And when you are there still, looking nicely at me, and I looking nicely at you, something always happening. Your consciousness is not the same from one instant to another instant. This is why one of the French humorists, why ask, how old are you? He said, I can't say you, it is changing all the time. So this is time, and the mirror effect means that we have now the consciousness, the awareness of the notion of time. Time. Your dearly loved cat does not have the notion of time. He's hungry, he looks for food, then sleep, and then that's it. But there's no time in the consciousness of a cat or a dog. And this is why now we are facing a big problem. This problem, how to meet with the coming back of this objectivity of matter, and we have to deal with it. And the way is very long. The way is very long. This is to give you just an image. You have heard about Maharaja, oh no, not, I missed the seer of a mountain in India. Yes, Ramana Maharshi. When he asked us, said, please tell us where we are in our evolution. Are we going a long way? Are we near to God? And Ramana's answer was, no, a cow is nearer to God than you. And it is all true. Because on the way of going, before reaching the limit, the borders of objectivity, you are somewhere there, near the border, and the cow is there. It's going on its way. Even you return, you are still on the further, a longer distance from the source, which we call God. Pardon me, I don't call you God. But it is the same for everybody. It's the infinity God, the supreme, the one, without a second, etc., etc. We know that vocabulary, terminology doesn't matter much for us. For some people, yes. For us, no. And if it turned to be something important for us, then we have a problem. Problem of going beyond the terms. Because we are now prisoners of terminology. Okay? So, using words, but we go beyond words. This is also one of the motto of Song Buddhism or Zen Buddhism, using words to go beyond words. So, now, in the process of evolution of consciousness, we have two things to deal with. What is thought and what is time? Thought, I think that all of us have some clear idea about it because we pretend to think and to have thought. We are dealing with thought. All the ideas, the concepts, even we don't understand fully, we know that they are thought. Now, what is time? This is the big chapter. Time, what is time? We know that there is chronological time, meaning that it is just a matter of convention. If you lived in the planet Mars, or Mercury, or Venus, chronologically it is not the same. Everyone knows it. Now there is a psychological time. Things that we like and we love do not last. And things that we don't like last longer. Why is it? It is not a mystery. It is just we decide the value of time we want to allocate to it. Because we are infinity and time has nothing to do with our being. But then we leave ourselves falling in the trap of time. And we say, oh, time. Yes, of course, all of us will die, one day or another, sooner or later. But it does not matter much. We are timeless, meaning that still we exist in some form other than a physical body and the form of consciousness. Is it an uncertainty? I don't know. But for the time being, I opt for this because it sounds like the most reasonable. But I will not tell it as a belief or a dogma because otherwise I will fall into the same trap as all fanatics and all those who want to profess and to give sermons. Okay? So I said, maybe, I'm sure that we're all to die. Whether we exist still. I say yes. Reasonably, I would say it is acceptable. It is acceptable not out of fear of annihilation. No. Because if I accept because of fear, there's no validity. But considering that we are a reasoning being, is it acceptable that we don't exist before birth and we disappear after death? Is it worse than the absurdity that the Vienna Circle has decreed after their deliberations? It is absurd. And knowing that nature is never wasting her energy, if we accept the theory or the hypothesis that after birth, life, and after death, nothing, it is really, we are opting the wasting theory. Nature is wasting. I mean that using once and throw away. Kim-Diêu exists just once and then finished. It is not acceptable. Kim-Diêu, who else? Michael, Sivana, Sylvia, whatever. So then, making use of the reason, we know that there is something which will continue with time. And that this psychological time depends upon our own paradigm. What is the paradigm? Paradigm is the model general that we opt for. Meaning that if we have a very materialistic paradigm, we say, okay, I am the body. When the body dies, finished. It is not our paradigm. Our paradigm is that we are timeless. We are infinity. So something will exist. Life after life, and on and on. Is there any end? No, to answer and to come back to what our friend Michael Gomes said yesterday, there are three boons. The one is to go from here to heaven, the second heaven to infinity, and infinity and beyond. I said, no, the third boon does not have any validity, because infinity is always moving. It is infinity. You cannot go beyond, because if you say infinity, it is already beyond. So just ask for two boons, not for three.
It wasn't for me. It wasn't for me.
Yeah. Change the story. Okay. Okay. So time. The ancient would say that they can measure the smallest unit of time. That they call chakna. It is the space of time between two thoughts. Two thoughts. Can you be aware of this time between two thoughts? Yes, when you meditate. In meditation, there is awareness that one thought after another will rise. Thought or emotion, whatever, something manifesting in consciousness. But between the two, this space, very quick, this time, very quick, is called chakna. And this is the smallest unit of time, measurement of time. Forget about it. If you come to this knowledge of this infinite, smallest, also you reach infinity, because it is the same. It is the same. The other day, our senior friend, Stefan Holler, gave a brilliant explanation, the horizontal and the vertical. Horizontal is that the time going on linearly. Linear reality, it is going on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that. Now verticality is the moment when you are out of time, because there is a meeting of something out of time, taking you out of the linearity of this process. This point of meeting between the horizontal and this vertical point, this is the now. It is not the present. The present is just a way of putting past, present, future. But it is a concept. to describe the line of time. Now is this instant, always moving, always renewing itself. And it is the source of time, and it is also eternity. This point immaterial of meeting between the horizontal and the vertical. It is the now, eternal, forever. So, in the secret doctrine, the first said time was not, of course, at the beginning, if there is a beginning at all, because we are saying we are using a language which is very limited. We say there is a beginning, but is there any beginning? And what is this beginning? To illustrate that, I want to share with you something which I hope you are going to like. It is from my friend Chuang-Tzu. Chuang-Tzu. At a certain time, he said, I'm now going to make a statement here. I don't know whether it fits into the category of other people's statement or not. Uncertainty first. But whether it fits into their category or whether it doesn't, it obviously fits into some category. So in that respect, it is no different from their statement. However, let me try making my statement. Here is Chuang-Tzu's statement. He said, there is a beginning. It is our subject. Huh? There is a beginning. There is a not yet beginning to be a beginning. There is a not yet beginning to be a not yet beginning to be a beginning. There is being. There is non-being. There is a not yet beginning to be non-being. There is a not yet beginning to be a not yet beginning to be non-being. Suddenly there is non-being. But I do not know when it comes to non-being, which is really being and which is non-being, same time. Huh? Now I have just said something, but I don't know whether what I have said has really said something or whether it hasn't said something. This is the essence of Chuang-Tzu. You ask questions, you go up. So, what's that? I cannot be certain. It is like his dream. You have to know this dream. Because all of us has a dimension of Chuang-Tzu. And whenever you have trouble, go into Chuang-Tzu's dream and you will be saved. I read the story to you. One Chuang-Tzu dreamed he was a butterfly flitting and fluttering around, happy with himself and doing as he pleased. He didn't know he was Chuang-Tzu. Suddenly he woke up, and there he was, solid, unmistakable Chuang-Tzu. But he didn't know if he was Chuang-Tzu who had dreamed he was a butterfly or a butterfly dreaming he was Chuang-Tzu. Between Chuang-Tzu and the butterfly, there must be some distinction. This is his conclusion. This is called the transformation of things. So we are in this process. Who are you? Well, I don't know, I'm Chuang-Tzu or butterfly. Depends. So it will save us from this crystallization of the ego. I am this. You are not going to move me by that. Yes. Anytime there's this tendency, revert to this dream, to uncertainty. And so, time absolutely unreal. And the mind is the producer of time. If there is no thought, no thinking, there would not be any time. Time is the fruit and the product of the mind. Thought produces time. Now we cannot abstain from talking about space, because with our knowledge of today, talking about time and space separately sounds to be very much ignorant. So let us be a little bit less ignorant. Science calls space-time as a continuum of everything. Inside that, everything was born, evolved, and will die someday. But space has something absolutely metaphysical. It is also the substance, the container, and also the means for evolution. I'm not going to go too far, because you are all students, very expert in the secret doctrine studies and the Mahatma letters studies. You will find it with the term svabhavat, which is the substance of space, considered as sacred, and it is like the one continuum where everyone exists, evolve, you, me, the cat, the dog, the plants, everything. And inside this space, humans are this species who is asking the question, what is it? Where am I? Where do I come from? Where am I going to end? Will I still exist after my physical death? What is death? What is life? Who am I? The only species. Not that because I belong to this, that no, it is a fact. And what is inside this? There's something which has to be revealed for oneself by oneself. This is the occult. The occult is this hidden side of things inside each one of us, not as a theory, but something that we have to experience, to see the occult is inside us infinite. Because what we know is very little. What do we know? We know notions, we know theories, but what do we know in reality? As Stephen Holler put it the other day. There is a theory, and what is that? Real. Without the thinking, the thought process. What is the occult for each one of us? And this is the hidden side of the human being, and the hidden side of a human being is also the hidden side of the whole universe. Because we are a universe in miniature. It is not me, it is Blavatsky who said that. And also before. I mean that all the Hermetic philosophers and also before, we are just a condensation of things. This is why when we explore ourselves, knowing ourselves leads us to know the universe. Otherwise, there's no way out. No way out. The universe cannot be known thoroughly in objectivity. Science can go very, very far, very far. But science always hit against something. Human soul, human consciousness can go very far, but can go further than science. This is not professing, it is a confirmation. I check it on my shoulder. My responsibility. A human being inside consciousness can go further, much, much further, because we know that we are infinity. Knowing that we are infinity, we have put the target and the aim. But aiming at it, the work should not be done in the way that I want to do it. But the aim is always there. I am infinity, meaning that in the practice, what happens? I have a project, I fail it. Doesn't matter much. I am infinity. If I succeed, good, not matter much. I am greater than that. Meaning that you are detached against all upheavals in life, events, good, bad, happy, unhappy. We became the witness of life. We cease to be the experiencer. We are the witness, we are the watcher of life. Because so far, we want to experience. This is for experience. Let us experience it. Yes. And this occult side of us is what some philosophers call otherness. That you come out of the identity of yourself. So far, I name myself me. And in the hidden side of things, I cease to be this limited me. There's something else. This something else is otherness. And the more we go inside it, the more we discover the universe. Because the universe is contained in our own consciousness, in our own infinity. In this sense, Theosophical Society was founded, and Blavatsky, through reminding ancient mysteries and revealing the concealed knowledge, acted as a messenger, nurturing the spiritual soul for growth in understanding of the place and the role of humans in the universe, leading it to the final discovery that each and all is just a manifestation of reality. It's just a manifestation of reality. Each one of us is a manifestation of reality. You see, wow, what Kim-Diêu is saying there? Because, you see, one of the senior theosophists, perhaps some of you have known her, Yanthi Hoskins, whenever she's asked, how are you doing today? How are you? She said, oh yes, I am perfect, but I have difficulty to manifest it. Yes. So all of us, each of us is just a manifestation of reality. And our duty is to manifest it the best way. The best way of ours, of course, not in perfection because we're imperfect, but let us do something. So it leads to this. It leads to this next. Coming to this discovery of the occult, within the mirror effect, we transcend objectivity and discover the subjectivity inside ourselves. And it comes to, we have to come through these two notions, the transcendence and the immanence. There was great discussion with philosophers, Descartes, Kant, whatever, and discussion went, is God transcendental or immanent? Meaning, is God, is it everywhere? Or we have to work hard to reach it, to transcend. The one says immanent, the other says transcendental. I say both. cannot go other way. If it were not immanent, never we can reach it by transcendence. It is already there. And because it is there that we can reach it. Is it all right for you? Or it is a little bit? Meaning that the matter of discussing between the two things, this or that, should be terminated in this century, because it is the manifestation of duality in mind. The mind has to learn this capacity of unifying and synthesizing. These two opposites has to come into one. God, or the Supreme, or whatever you name it, is both transcendental and immanent. Otherwise, cannot be. Otherwise, your mind cannot reach it. It is out. And if you decide that you cannot reach it, then how do your prayers go? To whom? Where? Because it is unreachable. I see that John is really smiling at it, and it has come to this junction of the Chang and the Mahayana Buddhist thinking. It is Mahayana. This is the big theory, big teaching of Nagarjuna. Nothing exists in reality. Everything exists through the definition and the relationship with the others. Kim-Diêu does not exist. If you are not there to look at Kim-Diêu and to see, here is Kim-Diêu. This flower cannot exist if nobody is there to look at it and say, it is a flower. And this is why the students of Madhyamaka should prevent to say, it is that. No, it is neither this nor this. And it is the way we work on the razor edge. Not fanatic, not dogmatic, not skeptic, but moving on always. This is in 3 words, the teaching of Madhyamaka, of Nagarjuna. It is called the middle way, but it's not so much middle. It is because the razor edge, one should not fall on this side or this side, because nothing exists in reality. Everything exists by definition and by relationship by the others. It is a blow to the ego, right? And this is why it is called also the doctrine of emptiness, because nothing has a reality, in reality, an identity, entity by itself. We all exist because we are related together. So, the consequence, ethics, you see, ethics is specific to humans. Do you agree? Yes. And, of course, service is the means for growth, because this is the first step to allow ourselves to forget ourselves. Not to say, this is for my interest. I forget for a while. Don't worry, it will come back. It will come back. Sooner or later, you have to fight. But then, for a while, one has to forget oneself. And don't expect me to make the code universally known. What is ethics in theosophy? You know it, huh? I'm not going to quote it. You know it or you don't know it? Okay, you got me. Ethics is the soul of theosophy. You know it? Yes. Yes. So now, by serving and by doing this self-sacrificing act, we come to this possibility of transcendence of ourselves. Transcendence of oneself starts with forgetfulness for oneself. Go beyond oneself looking further, always further. And we know that because we are infinity, the cycle of human cycle does not end in a deadlock. There are many, many things. You will have a problem of choice. No, you don't have to choose. Because at that level, it is a choiceless awareness. One has to go wherever to serve. Now the thing is that when we transcend ourselves, is there anyone else? Anyone still there? There's nothing there. Because this identity that we identify as me disappear. Don't ask me where. I suppose it is in the common reservoir of universality, where you can meet with the universal consciousness of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, etc. And I think the time is running, and Theosophy taught us that renewal is constant, rhythmic, periodical, and eternal. And humans may, can, and ought to contribute to this destiny. This is our duty to participate, because what we do to us, each one of us, will affect the whole. Otherwise, there's no way out. At present, a great number, and not only the instituted elite, can now participate. Don't look to be an expert in anything. Do the job right now. There are many, many students I have met in my life of service to the TS. They said, well, wait a minute, I have to finish and I have to get to my PhD before serving. I said, really? You don't need your PhD to serve. If you want really to serve, understand first. Is the PhD help you to love, to feel, or it is just a card? So, anyhow, I'm not saying nasty things against a PhD, okay? They're all admirable people, okay? So, going further, we said that the other day, that discovery of infinity is our characteristic. Now, the question next, how to do it? How to discover? Now, discovering infinity begins with directing the movement of consciousness towards infinity. Never forget this last sentence. It is how to do. We know the theory, we are infinity. Okay, that's good. How to do? How to realize it? Well, you are the substance, you are the means, you are also the aim. Infinity is consciousness, consciousness. You are consciousness. And how to do? Direct the thinking, direct the movement of consciousness towards, first, the concept of infinity. And move and see. Be experimental. Okay? I think that I do not take more time then. So thank you for your vivid participation.